My name is Clara Johnson. I am 38 years old, and until today, I thought I knew my family. The sun filtered through the large bay windows of my in-laws' home, casting geometric patterns of light on the polished wooden table, which was almost too pristine for the chaos brewing around it. My heart was a prisoner in my chest, thumping wildly against my ribs as the atmosphere soured, even amidst the bouquet of fresh roses placed at the center of the table. "Let's get to why we're here," Sarah said, her voice dripping with feigned charm as she flipped through a thick dossier like a saleswoman about to seal a lucrative deal. My sister-in-law's confidence prickled my skin as I clenched my hands beneath the table, a lifeline in a gathering that was swiftly becoming awake. The words she spoke, a treacherous mixture of glee and poison, stung where they hit. "Tom and I will be managing the family estate, and as for you, Clara, you have contributed nothing," Sarah announced with a triumphant laugh, her eyes sparkling with the cruel delight of some cold-hearted victor. The room fell silent as these words hung heavy in the air like a leaden weight, suffocating our once harmonious gatherings. Images flashed through my mind. Late nights spent budgeting the household finances while Tom chased his dreams. Hours devoted to caring for Sarah's children while she pursued her career, always silently reining in my own aspirations. The countless sacrifices I'd made for a family that now seemed to have forgotten my place in their lives. I felt the heat rising in my cheeks, my breaths shallow, the cool air of the house twisting in my lungs. As the murmurs spread like wildfire through the family, I caught sight of Tom, my husband. His gaze was downcast, cheeks flushed with awareness, but in that moment, he was lost to me, so wrapped up in his sister's game that he seemed oblivious to my devastation. I knew in that instant that nothing he could say would mend my wounded heart. I turned to Sarah, her presence overbearing, exuding an air of superiority that gnawed at the very fabric of my being. With each passing moment, her smirk grew wider, feeding off my turmoil like a parasite thriving on its host. I wanted to yell, to scream, to make her see me, the Clara they had all overlooked. But instead I swallowed the lump of raw emotion rising in my throat, forcing myself to remain small, a shadow drowning in their disapproval. I fought against the hot tears misting my eyes, blurring the edges of my family's faces, the faces I had devoted my life to. I sought solace in the corners of this room. The memories that once filled it with love now turned to ash. I was drowning in bitterness and disbelief, questioning every bit of love I had poured into this family. How could they turn their backs on me so easily? Silence enveloped the room as I fought back my rage, slipping into a protective shell. I would not give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. I had spent years building a life for this family, nurturing their dreams while watching my own slip through my fingers like sand. But I was not just the dutiful wife whose sacrifice had gone unnoticed. I was a survivor, and somewhere deep inside, I felt a flicker of something strong. They thought they had left me with nothing, but I was left with everything. The words echoed in my mind, pulsing like a heartbeat, igniting a quiet storm in my soul. I clung to them, wrapping them around me as I stepped cautiously towards the precipice of discovery. Perhaps my journey was just beginning, and I would find a way to reclaim my dignity from the ashes of their betrayal. The meeting droned on, but I lost myself in thought, contemplating how betrayal could blind those I had trusted most. The scent of roses suddenly felt suffocating, and the laughter that had once rung melodiously around this table now struck dissonant chords in my heart. I inhaled deeply, summoning the strength to carry me through what would come next. The aftermath of the meeting hung over me like a dense fog. I packed my bags that night, determined to leave the suffocating weight of betrayal behind. But each item I placed in my suitcase felt like a deeper reminder of my exile from the life I had built. I drove back to our small apartment, the only space I could call my own now, pondering how I had become an unwelcome guest in my own life. It felt like the walls themselves were closing in, a constant reminder of my invisibility and sacrifice. As I unloaded the car, I noticed the fading light of the evening sun bathing everything in its golden glow, a stark contrast to the shadows that loomed over my heart. I closed my eyes, trying to find escape in memories, The laughter of children in the backyard, the warm embrace of family gatherings, and the love I had devoted to them all. But now those memories stung, sharp reminders of what had been stolen from me. I sank under the couch, wrapping my arms around my knees, trying to find comfort in the familiarity of the worn fabric. The apartment was a mere reflection of a once vibrant life. I glanced at the framed photos on the mantel, each picture a chapter of my life filled with joy, now tainted by the betrayal that had been laid bare before me. I could almost hear the echoes of laughter in those images, but with each laugh came the chilling realization that they belonged to a family who had left me behind. In the stillness of my exile, memories flooded back, vivid and painful. I remembered the countless nights I spent supporting Tom during his late nights at work, the exhaustion that settled in my bones as I brewed pot after pot of coffee and helped him prepare presentations. I recalled the many times I had sacrificed my own desires for his dreams, always hoping that one day it would bring us closer together. Instead, my sacrifices had made me invisible, a shadow tucked away in the corners of their lives. I could see Sarah proudly taking her place beside Tom at family events, the children clamoring for her attention while I stood on the periphery, quietly fading into the background. I could almost hear the laughter ringing in my ears, the moments of playing house with Sarah's kids, while I whispered the dreams I'd put on hold. Each loving act I had performed, each moment I had held her hand while supporting her through hard times, now felt like grains of sand slipping through my fingers. Days turned into weeks as I tried to grasp some semblance of normalcy amid the turmoil. I spent my mornings wandering through empty parks, the chill in the air whispering secrets of the life I had lost. I clung to the hope that time would heal the wounds inflicted by my family, but as each day passed, the ache only deepened. I scrolled through my phone, checking social media for updates on family events I wasn't invited to, each notification a fresh slice of pain. In the quiet of my exile, I began to understand the depths of my own resilience. I found ways to reinterpret my reflections, piecing together the scattered shards of my fractured identity. I learned to embrace solitude, drawing strength from the echo of my own heartbeat rather than the chaotic blend of family chaos. It was here, in the quiet moments beneath the surface chaos, that I discovered the heyday of dreams that still flickered like embers, just waiting to be stoked back to life. Amid my suffering, I found clarity. My hands ached to write again, to document the stories that had been lost in the turmoil of family obligations. Each word became a tribute to my past and a map to my future, a future that no longer included the confines of Sarah's expectations or Tom's neglect. I began to imagine a life built on my terms, a tapestry woven with the threads of my desires, my passions, and my own definition of family. One evening, while sifting through old boxes in the attic, I stumbled upon a forgotten journal, its cover worn and edges frayed. I had started it years ago, a collection of thoughts and dreams that had been tucked away in the confines of life's demands. As I flipped through the pages, a flood of emotions washed over me. Hopes of a brighter future, aspirations I had allowed to fade in the name of family loyalty. I read passages where I poured my heart into the ink, the dreams of travel and stories left unexplored. It was a piece of me that had been lying in wait, and in that moment, I felt a flicker of hope rekindle within. In those pages, I glimpsed a version of Clara that I had buried beneath the weight of expectation. I revisited moments where my voice was vibrant, where my laughter rang true, resonating with the echoes of possibility. The journal became my sanctuary, a reflection of what I had overlooked in the chaos of familial obligations, a reminder of who I was beyond the roles I had played in their lives. As I pored over the words, I felt the first stirrings of determination. I would not remain a victim within the shadows of my family's betrayal. I began connecting with old friends, reigniting relationships that had cooled under the pressure of family loyalty. Each phone call and coffee meetup with those who truly valued me filled my heart with a sense of belonging I had felt was lost. But it wasn't just the laughter and shared stories that illuminated my path. It was the quiet understanding that I wasn't alone. I began to connect with people who had faced their own struggles, warriors who had forged their identities beyond familial expectations. Each story I heard became a beacon of hope, a testament to resilience, and a reminder that a fitting revenge could be living a fulfilling life on my terms. Amid this rejuvenation, I sought to find meaning in the betrayal. I realized that my family's actions were not a reflection of me, but rather a sign of their insecurities. I finally understood that my worth was not tied to their validation, but rather rooted deeply within myself. The dawning realization spurred something more profound, a yearning for justice, not simply revenge, but a reclamation of my own narrative. And so, I began collecting my thoughts. My dreams reignited with a powerful surge of determination. It was time to rise, to threaten the very foundation of their expectations, and to reclaim everything they had tried to strip away. In my heart, I knew a confrontation would come, but before then, I needed to ignite the hunger for justice, a fire kindled by the passion that had long lain dormant within. With every ounce of strength I could muster, I prepared to turn the narrative of my exile into a fierce determination to stand tall again, unveiling the depths of betrayal and deceit that had been hidden within my family. If you're enjoying this journey with me, show your support by sending super stickers. Your fun and colorful contributions keep this channel alive and help me bring you more stories of resilience and justice. The weeks passed in a whirlwind of emotions, a cycle of resilience intertwined with the remnants of grief. My friendships blossomed, more resilient than I had dared to hope. There was Anna, an old college friend who had always believed in my dreams. Over coffee one afternoon, as warm sunlight streamed through the window, she asked me a simple question. "What do you want for yourself, Clara?" That query awakened something inside of me, a stir of ambition long buried beneath layers of familial expectations. I realized that I craved more than just validation or acknowledgement from those who had betrayed me. I wanted to reclaim my life. I wanted to design it on my own terms, but there was more to it. I was beginning to accept that the fight wasn't just against them. It was against the version of me that had allowed this to happen. With each passing day, I delved deeper into my passions, rediscovering the joys of writing, of creating. The act of putting pen to paper became cathartic, a testament to my resilience. My journal transformed from a collection of dreams into a plan. I couldn't stay a victim anymore. I needed to find strength. The wounds of betrayal still stung, but I could feel them beginning to heal, turning into fuel for my fire. One afternoon, while reorganizing some old boxes in a forgotten corner of the closet, I stumbled upon an envelope I didn't recognize. Its edges were yellowing, the paper worn and crinkled, but something about it pulled me in. Curious, I gently worked it free from the stack, brushing away the dust of neglect that had settled upon it. I recognized Tom's handwriting scrawled across the front, and my heart raced. Taking a deep breath, I carefully peeled open the envelope, revealing a letter dated several months prior. As I began to read, I felt a rush of emotions flooding through me, each word igniting both hope and confusion. The letter outlined a plan Tom had devised to protect me from the family's cruel machinations after my contributions had been overlooked during meetings and gatherings. "Dear Clara," it began, "if you are reading this, then perhaps our home is not the sanctuary I once thought it could be.
I've witnessed the way my family dismisses your brilliance, the sacrifice you pour into every moment spent in their presence. I cannot sit idly by anymore, knowing that you are being taken for granted." With each line, I felt the power of his love and commitment pouring through the ink. He had been fighting for me in ways I hadn't even seen.
A silent warrior in the shadows of our tumultuous family. The letter detailed his strategy to slowly build a case to present to the family, one that would reveal my contributions and expose the deceit. The realization washed over me like a cleansing wave. Tom hadn't betrayed me as I had thought, but had instead aimed to safeguard my dignity, acting as my protector even from a distance. Those 4 words echoed in my mind. They thought they had left me with nothing, but I was left with everything. I was not bereft, I was armed. This newfound understanding ignited a fire in my chest as I absorbed the intricacies of his plan. He had reached out to a lawyer, a family friend who specialized in estate planning and inheritance disputes. The connections he had forged were more than just protective measures. They were threads back to the life I had sacrificed. This was my opportunity to turn the tide. As my fingers traced the delicate curves of his letters, I felt empowered. The weight of betrayal shifted from my shoulders to that of my family's. It was their time to face the consequences of their actions, not mine. My scars no longer defined me. They were markings of strength, highlighting the resilience I had yet to fully unleash. With renewed purpose, I decided to contact Tom's lawyer, a woman named Margaret, who had always seemed to possess a sharp wit and a keen eye. The next day, I mustered the courage to pick up the phone and dial her number. With each ring, my anticipation mounted until finally, her voice answered. "Clara, it's been a while. How can I help you today?" Her warm, professional tone wrapped around me, providing a sense of comfort. "Margaret, it's good to hear your voice." I stumbled, my heart racing. "I hope you can help me. I've come into some unexpected information regarding the family estate." The conversation ebbed and flowed as I shared the content of Tom's letter and the thoughts I had been keeping hidden for far too long. Margaret listened intently, her silence at times interrupting the anxious chatter of my thoughts. When I finished, she paused and it felt like the air shifted. "Clara," she finally responded, "this is significant. Tom's foresight is admirable. If what you're saying is true, we have a solid case to position you as more than just a footnote in their narrative. We will shine a light on the sacrifices you've made. It's time to reclaim your story." Her words sent a shiver of thrilling apprehension down my spine. If I could properly articulate my position, if I could align my strength with the meticulously crafted strategy Tom had laid out, I could stand tall and confront them when the time was right, a confrontation where truth would outweigh deception. In the days that followed, I began gathering all the evidence, collection records, and any documentation that could illustrate my involvement in the family business, the countless occasions when I had given my all to keep the household running. Each paper transformed from simple evidence to a powerful statement, a declaration of who I had always been beyond the curtains of their perceptions. It was as if I had walked out of a long, oppressive fog, and clarity unfurled before me. I focused on the meetings Margaret had scheduled for us, preparing the plans Tom had devised, and starting to strategize how I would unleash the truth. With my heart pounding in my chest, I envisioned the gathering where I would finally confront my family. The prospect of revealing the hidden betrayal, coupled with my desire to reclaim the dignity that had been stripped away, filled me with bold determination. I was not merely a victim. I was poised to rise, an understated champion ready to embrace her destiny. As I put the finishing touches on our plan, I felt a surge of hope wash over me. This was not about vengeance. It was about justice, a reclamation of my narrative. I would walk into that room with my head high, ready to stand for my truth and expose their deceit. If this story is touching your heart, please consider sending a super chat to support the channel. Your messages and contributions help me continue sharing these powerful stories. Every super chat makes a real difference. As the day of the family meeting approached, swirling emotions collided within me. I was a fortress of resolve, buttressed by the unwavering support of Margaret and the strength I had begun to rediscover within myself. With each passing hour, I committed myself further to our strategic plan, poring over evidence that illustrated my contributions to the family and meticulously organizing documentation that proved I was far more than a footnote in their narrative. I envisioned one pivotal evening, the gathering where I would finally confront them. The mere thought filled my veins with electricity, a jolt of anticipation coursing through me. My heart raced as it dawned on me. I wasn't just rising from the ashes of my past, but reclaiming the power that had always been mine to wield. Determined, I cloaked myself in silent investigation, a vigilant observer in this game of familial chess. The more I immersed myself in this world, their world, the more I understood the intricate maneuvering that had allowed their deception to flourish. I remembered the moments spent in that ornate house, drowning beneath a never-ending cycle of obligation and sacrifice. Now, armed with newfound insight, I was prepared to flip the script. I began frequenting the family estate cloaked in the shadows of night, a ghost in a house that had once been my home. My heart thudded quietly as I approached the grand, imposing structure, the moonlight casting eerie shadows that danced along the edges of manicured gardens. Instead of feeling burdened by nostalgia, I saw opportunity. Every creak of the wooden floorboards underfoot was a reminder of the determination fueling my mission. I was there not to evade my past, but to understand its intricacies and uncover hidden truths buried beneath the surface. Under the cover of darkness, I would peer through windows, observing the familiar silhouettes of my family members around the dining table, their laughter resonating like frozen echoes in my heart. Tom's rich voice mingled with the mellifluous tones of Sarah, the two of them weaving a web of affection that excluded anyone who dared challenge their comfortable status quo. I couldn't help but wonder how I had ever been swept up in their charm, believing their world could encompass my own aspirations. The opportunity to acquire critical information arrived that fateful evening when they gathered to discuss estate matters. I had arrived expecting a mere family dinner, but found myself eavesdropping on a deeply disquieting exchange. The sharp tones of conversation cut through the air as I crept closer, every word puncturing through the heavy atmosphere. "It's time we address how Clara has always been more of a burden than a blessing." Tom's voice rang out, each syllable laced with biting disdain. My heart sank, outrage coursing through me. How could he betray me so openly, demeaning the woman who had stood by him through everything? "She needs to learn her place in this family, Tom. She can hardly be trusted to manage her own life," his father responded, his tone condescending, practically oozing arrogance. Their laughter resonated through the open kitchen window, but it hit me like a physical blow. In that moment, clarity struck. These conversations, laced with scorn and contempt, were the foundation of my resolve. Turning their dialogue into ammunition for my truth would redefine everything. Their laughter was merely a veil hiding the insecurities staining their facade. I could not remain a passive victim. I was determined to wield the lance of truth where they thought I had no power. Over the next few days, I honed my skills, transitioning from a quiet observer into a calculated operator. I began sewing tiny threads of inquiry into my everyday interactions, posing as if nothing had changed. Every appointment or interaction with a close friend turned into a golden opportunity to probe for information that could give me an edge in my hidden quest. I navigated family gatherings with an outwardly calm demeanor, all while brewing beneath the surface with restless energy, ready to pour out everything I had amassed. Sarah was the toughest wall to scale, her composure easily sliding into a falsehood of warmth whenever I was near. Yet I studied her habits, how her expressions shifted, allowing me to catch momentary glimpses of what lurked under her skin. I engaged in casual conversations designed to bring forth insights disguised as trifles, always keeping my intentions concealed. The small talk morphed into a game of tact, each innocuous question leading me to uncover more about the dynamics of our family's true expectations. At a family dinner one evening, I sat across from Sarah. She drew me in with charming anecdotes, drawing laughter from everyone, but I maintained a calculated distance. "Remember the time Clara almost set that casserole on fire?" she cackled, forcing a laugh from the table. I could feel my insides twist, but I willed myself to push aside the emotion. "Actually, I was trying a new recipe that evening," I responded coolly, catching her off guard. "It turned out splendidly, even if you insisted otherwise at the time." The laughter subsided gradually, and perhaps for the first time, I glimpsed a shift in Sarah's confidence, a crack of uncertainty beneath her perfectly manicured exterior. Each time I scored even the slightest victory, my confidence blossomed. I was inching closer to reclaiming my narrative. My mettle solidified into steely resolve as I began to gather evidence from various sources, crafting my case steadily, almost mechanically. I pored over documents that captured my contributions, emails outlining my efforts, spreadsheets showcasing my hard work, and receipts that spoke to the resources I had dedicated to the family. On quieter nights, I collected these fragments of my life, binding them into trifolds that confronted the overzealous family narrative that had long since relegated me to the sidelines. I realized these documents were not just paperwork, they were my voice, my cries for recognition. At last, clarity wrapped around me as I envisioned walking into that meeting stronger than ever, not as the woman they had dismissed, but as the woman ready to unveil the truth and reclaim her storyline. Finally, the day arrived when I was ready to confront my family. I could feel it in my bones, the gravity of the moment humbling yet electrifying. I would step boldly into the room, hands steady with trust in my purpose, my past shaping my resolve. What would you have done in my situation? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. The day of reckoning arrived, casting a potent spell of anticipation in the air. I could almost taste the adrenaline that thrummed in my veins as I prepared to walk into the lion's den. The meeting was set for a Saturday afternoon at the family estate, a familiar place now charged with the weight of my purpose. I could almost hear the echoes of their laughter and criticism reverberating with each step I took toward reclaiming my narrative. As I gathered my documents, I took a moment to inhale deeply, centering myself amidst the chaos. In my hands I held more than just papers. I was cradling the essence of my journey, a raw testament to my sacrifices and the unyielding strength I had gained from the fires of their betrayal. Each document represented a piece of who I had always been, a challenge to the hollow perceptions cast upon me. I arrived early, the sun casting long shadows across the manicured lawn, giving me a moment to bask in the peacefulness before being confronted with the reality of my family. As the clock ticked away, anticipation began to morph into a burning determination. I took a deep breath and stepped inside, the door creaking open to reveal the vast, familiar interior, filled with memories tinged with both warmth and pain. The atmosphere was tense as my family began to arrive, a flock of smiles masking concealed agendas. Tom was among the first to walk in, his eyes bright with an energy that felt almost buoyant. I could see in his demeanor that he believed his words would shield him from the truth I was prepared to unveil. When he met my gaze, his smile faltered for just a moment, an unspoken recognition lingering between us. The room gradually filled, and I settled myself at the large oak dining table, carefully placing my tri-folded documents before me like a soldier readying for battle. Each folded edge felt like an armor plate protecting my most vulnerable truths. Sarah, always quick to assess potential threats, cast a glancing look at the papers, her confidence wavering for the briefest moment before she masked it again with disdain. "Why don't we start with the latest updates on the estate?" Tom suggested, his tone light as he motioned for everyone to take their seats. They all settled in comfortably, unaware of the tempest that was about to unfold. As we began to discuss trivial matters, I could feel the tension coiling tighter, a tangible pulse coursing beneath the surface. I watched as they engaged in friendly banter, their jokes veiled beneath layers of condescension. This was the pivotal moment I had prepared for. I steeled myself, waited for the right moment, and then took a deep breath. "Before we go any further, I think it's time we address some things that have been brewing beneath the surface," I said, placing both hands on the table as I leaned forward, a sense of gravitas anchoring my voice. The laughter faded, and a palpable silence enveloped the room. Tom's brow knit together in concern, and for the first time, I saw uncertainty flicker across Sarah's features. No words could prepare them for the storm I was unleashing. "I've spent years dedicating myself to this family, sacrificing not just my time, but also my dreams to support each one of you," I declared, keeping my gaze steady. "And it's become clear that those sacrifices have been dismissed as I've been made to feel invisible." Each statement was a calculated strike, asserting my presence, intent on capturing their attention. I reached for the trifold document lying before me, unfolding it slowly, deliberately, revealing evidence of my contributions, my missed opportunities and absent acknowledgments folded in as evidence of the bias that had silenced me. "Here are the records of my work for the family business," I continued, passing around pamphlets that illustrated my initiatives and involvement. "These documents report my extensive work in managing the finances and sustaining our family home." Tom shifted uncomfortably, his bravado faltering. I pressed on. "What has been clear in our discussions, and the letters I've received," I said, my voice unwavering, "is that my contributions have always been seen through the lens of obligation rather than value. You dismiss me, believing that my input is irrelevant when in fact, it is intrinsic to your success." I witnessed their reactions change. Disbelief mingled with curiosity as they scanned the documents. It wasn't the chaos I had expected, but rather an unsettling quiet. Their expressions ranged from confusion to begrudging acknowledgement. "Clara, we appreciated your help, but it was never about your value," Sarah interjected, her tone sharp as if she thought to cut through my argument before it solidified. "On the contrary, Sarah," I countered, my voice calm yet laden with conviction. "It's exactly about that, the value you never sought to see. I've been relegated to a role that belittles not just my contributions but my identity, but I'm done playing that part." With each clarion call of my words, I took control. I outlined the points confirmed in Tom's letter, the very strategies he had intended to use for my protection, and I checked their reactions. I saw misgivings reflected in their eyes. It was crucial that they understood not just my contributions, but the fragility of their narratives. "This is a core issue of trust within our family," I said, my voice resonating with depth. "It has been eroded due to the perception that I would always fall in line. But we cannot survive as a family if we continue to dismiss one another." The gravity of my statements enveloped the room. I felt the power of my words sink in, each one chipping away at their walls of ignorance. As I continued, I could see Tom engaged now, his brow furrowed in thought, my words resonating in a way I had hoped for. "This is a chance for all of us to reflect. We are on the brink of making detrimental decisions about our family's future and legacy. If we continue to treat one another this way, who are we leaving behind?" Silence reigned, yet I could feel the shift in the air. My truths mattered. My rectitude disrupted their charm, flipping our familial dynamic on its head. I asserted that the forthcoming decisions regarding the estate couldn't be made lightly. My rightful place was as a core decision-maker, a foundational aspect of our collective legacy. It felt liberating to finally speak my truth, transforming years of doubt into a bold proclamation. I was not seeking revenge. I was after understanding, clarity, and reconciliation. In that moment, I realized I had done more than just confront them. I had planted the seeds of change. I held the power to reclaim my narrative, not as a vindictive outsider, but as an intrinsic part of the legacy we were all forging. Did you feel that sense of justice? If this story moved you, show your appreciation by clicking the "Thanks a lot" Super Thanks button. Your generous support keeps this channel going and helps me bring you more stories of courage and triumph. A heavy silence settled in the room, thick with tension and uncertainty, as the weight of my words pressed down on my family. Their stoic facades began to crack, a shared glance, a quirked eyebrow, an involuntary shift of weight as doubt crept into their minds. Somewhere beneath their polished exteriors lay a flicker of realization. The status quo was crumbling. Tom's expression flickered between disbelief and anger, but I could see the gears turning in his head. He opened his mouth to respond, but faltered, perhaps weighing the consequences of dismissing me yet again. Instead, he glanced at his father, seeking alliance, but the old man sat silently, mulling over the unfolding drama. "Clara," Tom finally said, his tone tentative but laced with irritation, "you've always chosen to play the martyr. This is about more than you and your feelings. There are business decisions at stake, decisions that affect us all." His attempt to wield authority felt hollow now, his bravado waning as my resolve manifested in the clearing fog of the room. I stood firm. "This is exactly the problem, Tom. You've reduced my value to mere emotion, overlooking the very real duties I've upheld. The decisions you speak of involve each of us. My voice matters just as much as anyone else's." In that moment, something shifted. I caught Sarah's eye as she stared at her brother. I wondered if she saw him as I did. A once beloved partner reduced to a mere rival for recognition. A sense of solidarity filled me. This wasn't about just me fighting for a seat at the table. It was about ensuring we no longer let their arrogance dictate our fates. "Don't you see?" I continued, trying to guide the atmosphere toward understanding. "Our family thrives on collaboration, not subservience. Your hostility will not win this battle. It will undo us all. We can move forward, but only if we work together." Their murmurs began to echo around me, soft, awed responses, hesitant agreement interlaced with disbelief. Tom's brow furrowed deeper as he clearly grappled with the implications of what I laid before them. Would they allow us, to change the narrative? Or would they cling to their old grudges and assumptions? "I can't believe you'd put this all on us," Sarah scoffed, crossing her arms. "You're turning a family conversation into a soap opera." But even her voice wavered, betraying the uncertainty she tried so hard to conceal. "We cannot afford to dismiss the truth any longer," I pressed. "The estate isn't just a collection of buildings or wealth, it's a vessel of our family's legacy. Treating each other like adversaries won't protect it, it will fracture it. I refuse to stand by as we obliterate what our family stands for." In that instance, an unexpected ally emerged. Margaret, who had been quietly observing the exchange, broke her silence. "They are right, you know. A family cannot function under mistrust. Clara's input is essential. It needs to matter if we are to preserve any semblance of unity. What happens if we continue to act in ignorance of each other's contributions?" Her interference ignited a spark amongst them. Tom looked at her, then at me, the foundations of his defenses beginning to sway. "All right," he said begrudgingly. "Maybe we can have a devil's advocate discussion about this. Clara, present your case, but understand, no more platitudes," I interrupted boldly. "If we are to go down this path, I will not settle for apologies laced with conditions. Changes need to come, starting today." With that declaration, I felt a flicker of hope meld with my apprehension. The confrontation was akin to navigating uncharted waters, turbulent, uncertain, yet filled with potential. The room felt charged with fresh energy, crackling with tension as discussions surged in momentum, and all of us began unpacking years of resentment. I watched my family exchange glances of hesitation as we explored tangible solutions amidst the fog. They spoke tentatively at first, their positions dulled by the fear of upheaval. At one point, I audibly gasped as Tom hesitated. He was seeking common ground, and the thought of his change was both unexpected and exhilarating. "I understand now," he muttered under his breath, glancing back to me. "But we need to formalize our new relationships, for the business and for the family." And so, we assembled a new framework for engagement, a structure to redefine our interactions fully. As the minutes turned to hours, I witnessed my family's process of tearing down the old hierarchy. It was no easy feat. Tensions still flared, voices still raised. Yet each heated exchange chipped away at the disarray, revealing something new beneath. Each time they attempted to question my role or importance, I countered back, deftly holding my ground, asserting my desire for recognition and empowerment. I made note of their boundaries, Tom's limitations, Sarah's insecurities, transforming their weaknesses into stepping stones toward understanding. As the evening wore on, I felt everything shift from accusations to understanding. Tom was beginning to engage, unearthing confessions that had been buried too long. With every candid moment, the trust scales delicately tilted toward rebuilding our familial alliance. I realized that this confrontation, born from betrayal and disdain, had transformed into a powerful opportunity to evolve. By the time the sun dipped beneath the horizon, illuminating the house in warm golden hues, we had traversed the arc from conflict into something hopeful. Though we were a long way from reconciliation, I could see cracks forming in the old facades, all of us trembling at the precipice of renewal. Feeling the weight of newfound hope blossoming within me, I concluded, if we promise to work toward collaboration and solidarity, we can reclaim our family, our legacy together. But it will require relentless honesty from us all. The facade of perfection must go. I believe we can emerge stronger than ever, but we must agree to dismantle the perceptions that have trapped us. As I gazed around the table, I noticed expressions of concern mingling with contemplation. I finally felt a shift toward something brighter on the horizon. We had weathered the storm of secrets and deceit, and emerged ready to shape a new legacy together, a collective story woven together, rather than fractured narratives competing against one another. Finally it was over, but the battle laid bare the road ahead. This is just the beginning, I thought as I glanced about the table, letting the anticipation of healing settle over me. Did you find this journey inspiring? If so, consider sending a super chat to support the channel. Your contributions not only empower these stories, but ensure that we can continue sharing powerful tales of truth and transformation. In the weeks following our confrontation, I felt a heavy veil lift from our family. The conversations sparked during that pivotal evening carved new paths, comfortable yet fragile, connecting our lives in unexpected ways. Each interaction became significant, weaving together a tapestry of trust and understanding that we had long neglected. Emboldened by our commitment to rebuilding, I found myself sharing more openly. My laughter, my memories, my vulnerabilities emerging from the shadows. I reveled in these moments of connection, feeling an exhilarating sense of camaraderie blossom between us. Tom quickly stepped up to engage collaboratively, fostering an atmosphere of patience and respect with each decision we made regarding the family business. The air around us changed. Old animosities simmered down, making way for compassion. We began gathering for meetings that turned into workshops for life, where we discussed not only business but also our hopes and dreams. One evening in the kitchen, while pouring coffee, Tom said, "Thanks for pushing us, Clara. I didn't realize how clouded my perception of you had been until you made us face it." His sincerity warmed my heart. Families should elevate one another, not diminish, I replied, drawing strength from the moment. As we settled into this new rhythm, Sarah revealed her vulnerabilities. "I've harbored jealousy about your independence, Clara. Your ability to stand up for yourself shines a light on my insecurities." Her honesty was palpable, and it marked a shift. The seeds of respect were beginning to grow. "We all face battles," I assured her. "We should empower each other instead." In the months that followed, we engaged in deeper conversations about perceptions and truths, filling the gaps with apologies and admiration. It was a process requiring patience, but we embraced it wholeheartedly. We chose to embark on new projects as a team, nurturing moments of gratitude and connection. The sound of joyous laughter echoed around our dining table, each dinner becoming an evening of celebration rather than obligation. I found myself becoming more assertive in pursuing my dreams. I took workshops, expanded my skills, and finally embraced the ambitious person I had always wanted to be. Guiding my intentions daily became my new ritual, freeing me from the shackles of obligation I had endured for so long. The dynamics of our family began to transform. Our interactions shifted from dismissiveness to unity. When challenges arose in our business, we leaned into one another, allies aligned toward a shared purpose, rather than adversaries fighting among ourselves. On our family anniversary, a day once fraught with tension, we gathered in a flourishing garden we had tended together. As we raised our glasses filled with homemade lemonade, a warm glow enveloped us. To family, I toasted, my voice steady with conviction, and to the strength we've found in one another. To family, they echoed, eyes sparkling with renewed hope. It was here, in the warmth of acceptance, that I felt an undeniable sense of belonging. We had begun crafting a new narrative, one rooted in respect, understanding, and unconditional love. The journey hadn't been easy, but through each trial, we emerged stronger, ready to shape a legacy built on shared values. I reflected on how my story was no longer just about overcoming adversity, but rather about the triumph woven through the bonds of unity. I looked around the table, witnessing my family's transformation into a team of champions, bound together by the profound power of love. If you want to see what happens next in this journey, follow this channel and leave a like. Your support means everything. They thought they had left me with nothing.